Hey guys, what's going on? I am finally back on camera. It's been quite some time, I know. For anybody who's followed me for any length of time, you know the inconsistency of this channel, but I think that this is one of the longest hiatuses that I ever went through, and it was kind of unexpected, um, because I didn't really know how my condition would be moving forward and stuff. So long story short, I had a discectomy to remove a herniated disc in my low spine. So for like the first like couple of weeks, I had it done on May 17th. For the first few weeks, I was in so much pain. Like I had never experienced that kind of pain before. I was experiencing a lot of pain beforehand too, which also like plays up to the inconsistencies because I was still working and stuff. And with me still working, it was kind of hard for me to like have any energy to do anything else because being in pain all day, trying to work through pain is honestly kind of the worst thing ever. Let's get into this what this video is actually about, okay? Let's really get into this video. This is a rant, okay? I've been watching a lot of shows. I've been binge watching shows because like being at home and not being able to do much of anything at all, what else do you have to do but watch TV and play video games? The most recent show, though, is one that just premiered on BET, and it's called BET Presents The Encore. I have to talk about this show because I think ever since I saw that clip that was circling around social media with Keely Williams and Farrah Franklin, and they were supposed to do a show like this. They were supposed to do a show like that back, like I feel like a few years ago or whatever. And once those started to circle around and it like the footage leaked and stuff, I was like, you know what? I feel like this is a precursor to something else. I feel like they're going to actually do a show like this. And what do you know? They did. Now, Farrah was not involved in this. Maybe she had a bad experience with the way that the other one was going. But we did get Keely, and she's someone I'm going to be talking about quite a lot now. This is a rant, so obviously I don't have any notes. I'm just going to kind of talk about it. I'm going to kind of share with you guys my opinions about different things that are happening, and whatever. So the show is pretty much about them putting together an R&B super group. You know how we have like it was definitely giving like, and it was like nine girls, like nine women. I'm like, it's giving discount girls generation a little bit. It's giving American girl generation, and twice if you're not from the second generation of K-pop. So a lot of these women are from like older girl groups, and some of them are just older artists in general, like from like the '90s and the 2000s that kind of had like a certain level of success, but really did it like their groups teetered out, like their career kind of teetered out for various reasons. So starting with Pamela. Hmm, we have some things to talk about when it comes to Pamela, but we're just listing them off now. Pamela from Total, okay, if you remember Total, they were signed to Diddy, I believe. Um, then you had Nivea. Loved me some Nivea back in the day. I loved me some Nivea. Okay, yeah, I'm just saying, like, and also she's probably one of my favorite people on this show, if we're being honest. We had Shamari from Black. She was that's my girl. I'm not even gonna lie, that's my girl. Shamari was my girl because, well, first of all, she has the best voice. We'll get on that in a minute. But also just Black was my group. I loved Black. I love Black. Rest in peace, Natina. Like I loved Black. Black was those are my girls. Oh baby, bring it all to me. And then like one of the first times I ever heard them was in Honey when they had that song. I'm good without you. I'm good, I'm good. Watch Honey. Watch Honey. That's one of my favorite movies ever. But anyway, so we also got the twins from Cherish, Fallon and Felicia. And we got Aubrey O'Day from Danity Kane. We got Keely Williams from 3LW and the Cheetah Girls. We've talked about her on this channel multiple times already. Like we don't even have to like we've talked about her. And then we also had what is it? Lamisha and Irish from 702. So yeah, so those are our women. This is who we're working with. It looked a little like like they chose like randoms, but I guess you can say it kind of works. But the only thing is like only maybe let me see. only like two or three of them. You can tell. Let's just put it like this. Let's just put it like this. You can tell which ones were like actual, like that, the ones that actually like stood out in the crowd. You could tell which ones were lead singers in their groups. You could tell. You could tell Aubrey, could sing lead. You could tell Aubrey was a lead singer. You could tell Shamari was a lead singer, and you could tell Nivea, she was. I keep on I keep on rejecting the idea of calling her Nivea for some reason. I don't know why, but Nivea, you can tell that she was a solo artist. You can tell that some of these women actually were the standouts in their group, and you can tell which ones were not. And I hate the fact that you can tell which ones were not, because it makes it very divided. And it's one theme of the first episode. So we're introduced to all the women. I like the pacing of the episodes. Like I really like the way that um they paced everything out. Like especially in the first episode, everybody had their moment to shine. Everybody had their moment to tell their backstory, how they got there, what they were doing when they were in their groups or when their career was at its most high. And then when we get into the different other sequences, like we're not wasting time. I like that about this show, is that they're not wasting time getting us into the mess. So one of my first grievances with the first episode, because we're starting with the first episode, one of my first grievances with the first episode is, why is it that every single time, and not every single time, but a lot of the times when like BET debuts like a new movie or a new TV show, there's technical difficulties up the ass. Like I don't know if this happened for everybody else, but in my area, for some reason, I kept on getting the error screen on the TV. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? I got a little bit irritated with that, because it was like every 7 to 10 minutes it was happening. I was just like, I was ready to check out. But anyway, the first thing that really stood out to me was the fact that Keely Williams decided that she was going to not be in the group and be a creative director. When she came out and said that mess, I literally had to pause. I paused the TV. I paused it, and I had to get up and I had to leave the room. I kid you not. I left the room for at least an hour and a half. I did not come back. I paused and left the room for an hour and a half. I didn't come back. I didn't come back, because that right there, that just sent me for a loop. I was just like, what is going on here already? It is too early. It is too early for that level of just mess. Like it's too early in the episode. Like that happened. I think it was like less than 15 minutes of the episode has gone by, and I'm already experiencing like that weird kind of anxiety where you just know that something stupid is going to happen, and before you know it, it happens. A creative director, Keely Williams, and then she goes into this thing in the confessional, and she's just like, "Oh yeah, I put like groups and artists out there, and I put them together, and I get them noticed in the industry and all this stuff." And I just was like, "Oh, okay." I The thing is like, this isn't the first time that I've heard her say this. Like she's said it in interviews. She said it on her live streams, like on Instagram. Like she said that she does this whole creative direction management type thing, but I never see any of her artists. And that's not shade. I really don't see any. Well, no, it is shade, but it's the truth. I never see any artist that she has put out. Like if she would like to share with us her credentials and um what kind of qualifies her to be somebody's creative director, I really would like to know. And especially considering the fact, and this is something that I think, I don't know who put it out. I think it wasn't Aubrey. I think it was one of the twins that said, so you've been in two failed girl groups. And I'm gonna just add, she was probably one of the reasons why both of those girl groups failed, because she decided that she was gonna be a bully in one of them, and the second one she was just going to be like that person that throws rocks and hide their hands. I really never really cared too much for Keely, but you know what? I kind of enjoyed her in this setting, because it just shows, and then of course she'd be telling us a little like, fairy tale story about 3LW and the Cheetah Girls. It had me out when she was like, Oh, so I was in 3LW and we toured with Destiny's Child and this and that and the other. And then when Notori left, not that she was when she was pushed out of the group, or not when you threw chicken and mac and cheese and stuff. All what is it? Was it mac and cheese? I think it was like mashed potatoes and stuff. Whatever you did, you threw a plate of food in somebody's face and it caused them to feel unwanted and it caused them to feel like they had to leave the group. So let's call a spade. And then the Cheetah Girls, you annoyed the hell out of Raven Simone. And we already know about that situation. Well, let's say allegedly so I don't get sued for defamation. But I mean, read between the lines. I mean, they've talked about it. Raven has talked about it. That's the reason why she was laughing her ass off on that damn live that she did with Keeley. That whole creative director thing really didn't sit right with me. Everybody else kind of felt the same way, especially the twins. The twins really vocaled, like made their opinion vocal, and they like immediately were like, like what qualifies you to be like? Why are you here then if you're not going to be in the group? And then they left and all this extra stuff. And then they realized they're like, you know what? Let's just give her a chance, blah, blah, blah. So they come back and, the next day that they get, is it the vocal? Yes. Yes. Okay. So they have the vocal day. Pretty much they're all like getting together and they're all singing. Each of them is individually singing a song to kind of showcase what they can do vocally and to kind of see like where they're at vocally, to see like what kinds of music, what kinds of songs they would actually be able to handle together, and maybe who would be like more likely to sing lead if there is a lead singer. So you can tell that a lot of these women have not been in the studio for quite some time because and like I said earlier, you can tell the ones who actually would sing lead in their groups and who were background singers. Shamari and Nivea and Aubrey were the ones that stood out to me a little bit the most. Although Aubrey could have standed to kind of reel it back a little bit because she was giving, kind of shaky Aguilera. That little, I was like, but Nivea and Shamari definitely they showed that they could actually sing and stuff. So Fallon and Felicia, they for them to be talking the most crap about everybody, like they were they were decent. They weren't even all that to me. Like they could have been more, but that's the reason why like Cherish. I don't even know. I can't even remember all of Cherish's stuff. And that's another thing too. They were being a little disrespectful towards Pamela in the beginning because they were like, "Oh, you're who? Oh, like what group were you in?" I was like, "What group were y'all in?" Cuz I remember Total. I don't remember Cherish too much. And the thing is like Cherish, you would think because they were like a little bit later and I'm a little bit younger than like when Total was like around, like I was pretty much a baby. But I was coming up more when Cherish was around. But I don't really know like I know like one Cherish song, and that's because of Pandora. But like, come on, like let's stop that. Let's stop that. But like for them to be talking the most smack and then not really be like delivering that much, okay, fine. Um, Although I will say, I think it was Fallon who commented on Keely singing. She was, what she say? She said, "Oh, I guess I don't know what she thought she was doing." She's like, she was, kind of trying to showcase her skill and her tone, and there was a lack of both. I was like, oh my God. That's so funny. I can't. The shade was getting me every single time. That vocal coach is nicer than I am because I would have actually told a couple of them that like, we need to work on it. We need to work on it. We get into the whole the dance studio, okay, and obviously not everybody is a strong dancer, and then we have some who are strong dancers. Aubrey is one of the strongest dancers, and which is not that's not even a surprise considering Danity Kane, they did do like, choreo. They do heavy choreo during their performances. And so she is very versed in that. And that was something that on Making the Band was like a huge thing. Like you had to like serve it up dance wise. And Aubrey was actually one of the best dancers in Making the Band. So yeah, I mean, that was all to be expected. I expected her. I expected Shamari to be good with it, and I also expected the twins to be, pretty good with it. I knew that Irish and Lamisha would, kind of be, a little bit shaky with it. They weren't really doing their, Pam was trying, but Pamela wasn't really, she gave up after a while. Nivea was trying her best too, but you could tell, not everybody there. And then there was Keely, and Keely, like, she showed it out. She's one of the best dancers on there. I mean, come on, like, I've seen her, dance, and she's actually a pretty capable dancer. The thing is, though, like, people kind of were still questioning, like, okay, so you're supposed to be our creative director. Why are you participating in our exercises? If you're not going to be a part of the group, we can't have you sitting up here and, you know, taking up space. That's pretty much what she's there doing, taking up space if you're not going to be a part of the group, Keely. Like, come on. Um, but yeah, so people have an issue with that, and they continue to argue about that. So they have the writer and producer come in, and they pretty much sit around in the studio and they talk to them about kind of what they want their sound to be, like what they want to write about, what they want to sing about. And there's a divide between, what they want to do, and it's kind of like off-putting a little bit because half of them, they don't want to be too vulgar. They don't want to sing about anything sexual. They don't want to, they don't want to do any of that stuff that they see the younger girls doing, I guess. And that kind of creates a divide because, you have Shamari I don't know why I'm saying Keely, like she wants to actually be a part of this group. I feel like she really does. We'll get there later. So we got Shamari and the twins, and even Nivea, who really don't mind singing about sex and stuff because I mean they're grown women. Y'all had sex, have y'all got kids? So I mean, if you guys you got kids, you had to get them here some ways, right? They didn't just come randomly. No, you had to do the do in order to get there. And some of y'all are married, so y'all have your husbands. Like y'all could be talking about having sex with your husband. Y'all can talk about being in love with your husband and whatever have you. That's what Shamari said. She said, "Yeah, I'm gonna be singing to my husband. It don't matter to me." Let's get on Miss Pamela. From the moment that she came in, she, kind of struck me as a person that I would get annoyed with very, very fast. And it's not just because of the fact that she, she's a practicing Christian. And it's very, very opposite from what she used to kind of be. Correct me if I'm wrong, but most people remember her being kind of like the open, like the free-spirited one of the group. And so to see her now the way that she is, like holding on like closely to that faith and spreading it around and trying to force it on others, like, that's kind of where she's at right now. And the reason why a lot of the things that she said and has done, I kind of like disagree with. She was the one going the hardest for this, and every single time I turn around, it's my faith this, my faith that. I'm like, okay, we get it. If you didn't want to be a part of, like, if you were gonna be like that and be like so stuffed, like stuck up with it, then you should have been a gospel singer. Like you should have put together a gospel group and done gospel. This is R&B. You are expected to sing about love and sex sometimes. I mean, it just kind of happens. Even if you go, there's innuendos. Like you don't have to be vulgar with it. You can be, discreet about it. You could be a little like, a little cute with it. You don't have to be like beat this pussy up. Like you don't have to be like that. You can talk in metaphors. Like people have done that since the beginning of time. So I don't know why it's a huge issue, but okay, fine. That's her opinion. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But also, like, when you're discussing things as a group and you want to be a part of this group, you do kind of have to adhere to the opinions of other people. And that's my issue that I have with Pam. It's kind of redundant. Getting into the second episode, one of the main focuses is kind of how they work together because towards the end of the first episode, Aubrey comes up with this bright idea to split the groups down in half and have two groups of four. Okay, so pretty much she put herself in a group with the twins and Shamari, which they were the ones that danced the best and arguably have the best voices. And then she put Nivea and Irish and Pamela and Lamisha in a group together. And I'm just like, poor taste because why? Because they're older. Like, that I feel like, Keely was kind of right in saying that it was a little bit divisive because it was. But at the same time, I don't know if she was necessarily being like that. Maybe she was. Maybe she was. But the twins, they're messy as hell because they went back and told Aubrey about it, and then that got Keely and Aubrey to start fighting, and and then Aubrey brought up the fact that she worked with Notori on Broadway or whatever, and then of course Notori told her the story, and she's like, "Didn't you throw like a plate of chicken at somebody? Like, don't even do that." I was like, "Oh." So it's going to come up a lot. Into the second episode, we're talking this whole like division with the group and stuff, and having two groups, and how that's not a good idea because everybody kind of disagrees. Aubrey, she goes and she's like, "Okay, how about this? How about I try to come up with something that does work for us so that we can be a girl group all together." And so she goes and makes an entire vision board, kind of puts some things together, kind of comes up with a concept for them that would work for everybody. And she does a good job, and everybody's kind of in agreement, except for Keely, of course. So, and then of course everybody starts to come at Keely, and Keely's like, "Oh my gosh, everybody's coming at me. I don't understand. I don't understand." The victimizing for me. Like, she is like, come on. Come on. You're showing your ass already, and it's only the second episode. Keely, I think that what it happens is Keely is a little bit afraid of being a part of another girl group because she's been in two. She's the only one out of all of these girls that has been in two girl groups, and both of them have kind of fizzled out and weren't, they were successful to a certain extent, but they didn't really amount to be that much. One, because one was on Disney, and nothing in Disney is absolute. Nothing in Disney lasts that long. And her group 3LW that, she kind of put together fizzled out because they were poor management. I mean, I'm just going to chalk it up to that, poor management. But I feel like she is afraid, and I think that's what I believe Felicia said, because the day before she had called her a bitch, but then the next day she's like, "You know what? Let's try to come together. Let's try to come together as as women, and be mature and stop coming at Keely. Let's try to understand maybe the reason why she doesn't want to be a part of the group and why she's doing this creative director type thing." Um, she Keely was kind of like just spreading negativity. This is entire, like, for both episodes, kind of spreading negativity and kind of trying to disguise it as positivity. So I don't know. I don't understand it, but I do want to understand. I feel like she is a little bit afraid because of her bad experiences with girl groups, and she probably didn't want to make it seem like she was so gung-ho for this, and only for her expectations to be shut down. When your expectations are low anyway, you're less likely to be disappointed, and I feel like that's probably the way that she felt. But at the same time, you can't be sitting up here wasting everybody's time, Keely. Like, everybody came here to try to put together a girl group, and you're holding everybody back. So it's either you're going to be a part of the girl group or you're going to leave. She's like, "Maybe I should just leave." They're like, "No, we want you to be here." I'm like, I mean, the only reason why I would want her to be here is just to stir up mess, which I know that she's good at anyway. I mean, I'm just speaking from what I have seen so far, and I live for the mess a little bit. Just when it's on TV, it's cool. I'm so I'm messed up. But one last thing that I want to get on is Pamela. So they're sitting around, and they're like just having a conversation or whatever. And then Pamela notices that Aubrey is kind of like leaning on her leg or whatever. She kind of leaned up against her. And she takes big, huge offense to this. Um, and it's like, "Oh, I don't want anybody to think anything, because I used to be in a relationship with a woman, and, God delivered me from that." And I just wanted to stop her right there. Now, Keely is the one that kind of took offense to this because she does identify as bisexual. So I do understand why she felt the need to like come out and say, that is homophobic. And, people were kind of agreeing with Pam and saying, "Oh, it's not homophobic, and you can't call people stuff that you don't really know about, and dot, dot, dot. That's her opinion, the way she lives." And I want to just stop everybody at that. It is one thing to have an opinion and to be like, okay, to feel like, okay, you know what? I am I don't feel like I can be in a relationship with a woman anymore. I resent it. I tried it out. It wasn't for me, blah, 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 blah. But then to associate it with religion and say that, we, God delivered you from it as if it's some kind of disease that can be cured. That is the kind of, even though I don't believe Pamela meant it that way, it comes off as being like that because of, first of all, the platform that you're already on, and also just associating homosexuality with something that can be controlled. To me, is dismissive of people who are actually LGBTQ. And I think that BET actually has to do a better job of not bringing, like, I won't even blame BET for it, because this is all Pamela. These are the words that came out of her mouth, even though the producers had to, like, look it over and stuff to make sure that that's something that they wanted to be shown. Um, I think that Pamela needs to kind of look inward, because even if you don't want to, like, experience, even if you don't want to be a lesbian anymore, like, even if you feel like it's not you anymore, I feel like it's kind of reductive to attach that to your faith. You know what I mean? Because there's actually a lot of queer people that are practicing Christians. And I think that when you open up the floodgates for that kind of rhetoric, it really kind of makes people who are queer feel like they don't belong. And they already don't feel like they belong in the church, but like there are people who are queer that really do have a relationship with God and really want to have a relationship with God. And I think it's running on a fine line. It really is running on a fine line. You have to be very careful with the way that you word things, with the way that you say things, because it can come off as very condescending. And that's the one thing that I really didn't like about that whole entire situation. Keely was kind of right to call her out on that. And that is the one thing that I actually did agree with when it came to Keely. Like, I did agree with her that, like, she came off very homophobic, very condescending. Just all in all, just be careful about the way that you say things, because it really can affect other people, especially when you're on a platform like BET. You have a lot of young black queer people who watch, who watch BET, who probably are watching the show, and it really honestly will send the wrong message out. Oh God, ratchet! This is the ghetto. Um, it'll really send out the wrong message to people who want to have a relationship with God, but probably feel like the church is not going to be welcoming enough like she said, like Keely said, like there is no like pray the gay away. Like that to me that doesn't exist. Like being gay is not something that's a choice, and anybody who tells you that it is completely dead wrong. I'm telling you that as somebody who's experienced it and as somebody who grew up in the church. Do I frequent it anymore? No. I don't go to church anymore. And it's because of the rhetoric that was always being put out and the way that they would shade, the way it just, a lot of cattiness and stuff in the church. My relationship with God is my relationship with God, and I'm not going to impose my opinions, and I'm not going to force my beliefs on someone else. And I feel like she comes off as that. When somebody gets saved, and or baptized, and then all of a sudden it's like a new world for them, and then they're professing their knowledge of God and the faith to everybody that they see, but then also trying to make them see the way that they see things, and kind of chastising other people or judging other people for not seeing the way the seeing things that the way that they see them now. And that's kind of the way that she comes off. And I feel like, why are you trying so hard? Like nobody's worried about you. Nobody is worried about the optics. Like, I just saw it as girlfriends hanging out. Straight girls, they lean on each other, they cuddle, they be holding hands and stuff, and nobody says anything. I feel like that's just so archaic to think that way, and to think that anybody would even think that way. Nobody, like, I didn't even notice that Aubrey, like, that's not something that I openly looked at, like, oh my gosh, Aubrey is leaning on Pam, ooh, like, nobody was even paying attention to that. You were the only one that was paying attention to that. And to me, that tells me that there's probably still a lot of internal, like, issues that you might have with yourself when it comes to your sexuality, ma'am. I have to say it like this, because Majority of the people that I know in my life that have been homophobic towards me, years later, I find out that they have experimented with someone of the same sex. Sometimes find out the homophobia is underlying homosexuality, and you're trying to hold it all in. I'm not saying that Pamela's trying to do that, but I'm saying this. There may be something else going on that you have to kind of like, you have to kind of consult with, you kind of have to console about, I don't know. But I do know that me as a queer person, I really was not here for the way that just sat with me very, very, like, I felt very uncomfortable watching that scene with her. Anyway, that's all I really have to say about this show. I hope that it sees more episodes. Like, I really wanted to see more episodes. Like, this show is actually pretty good. So hopefully at the end of the season, hopefully we get a second season. I don't know what might happen towards the end of the season. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're actually going to get an album out. Do I believe that they're going to get an album out? Not really. Will they have a few performances? Yes. But I really don't know if if this is gonna actually be something that works. But we're here for the mess anyway. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great day, okay? Stay tuned for some more videos like this one. Yeah. Have a good day. Bye.